We always get a lot of chatter, don't always get a lot of big deals. Between Dwight Howard, Kevin Love, Al Horford, who is more likely to be dealt of the three?
I would probably say Horford, although a couple of GMs I spoke with this morning are growing more and more skeptical that the Hawks will move him. There really isn't much of a trade market for Dwight Howard. The Rockets are trying to move him. They know he's going to opt out, and they know he's going to ask for the max, and so does everybody else. So if you're the Rockets and you're trying to get Dwight Howard, quote-unquote, value in a trade, the teams that are trading for him are not going to give up significant assets unless they get some assurance that that's a place that he wants to be and will sign long-term, and they want to make a significant financial commitment to him. So those are a lot of factors working against that. You know, the Hawks are an interesting one. I think they are kind of looking at sort of a day of reckoning here for them as a franchise. Not that they're desperate to move Horford, but I think they feel like, look, if we had an historic season last year and couldn't win with a 29, 30-year-old Al Horford making $12 million a year, if we sign him to the max this summer, how are we going to win with him in 3 or 4 years when he's older and making twice that? So that's the dilemma. But like I said, the executives I spoke with this morning indicated they're becoming less. They have less of a belief that he's going to be actually moved.
Who is Dwight Howard? I mean, we were trying to figure out what his motivations are. Is it to make a ton of money? Is it to be the best player that he can in the league and, you know, make his mark that way? Is it to win a championship? Why does it feel like no one wants him?
Well, I think there is some ambiguity, I think is the right word, about who and what Dwight Howard is at this stage. I mean, he's cycled through so many teams. You know, he was so adamant about getting out of Orlando, but yet, you know, had the disastrous season with the Lakers, left money on the table to go to Houston, has not been able to get on the same page with James Harden. I guess you have to partially blame Dwight for that, and you partially have to blame James Harden. And now he's at a crossroads, and for all those reasons, teams are leery of him. Because of the health history, teams are leery of him. And primarily because of the contractual situation. You cannot give up major assets for a guy who may walk as a free agent.
Yeah.
You know, Ken, I'm happy to bring up James Harden here. And I said to Tiki before you joined this previous segment, I said, James Harden, to me, is going down the same path that Carmelo Anthony is currently on. And I just don't see this guy winning a championship if he's the main guy. He's a volume scorer. You know, he's a little grumpy and exactly project and resonate leadership. He plays no defense. I mean, if he's your top guy, which he obviously is in Houston, that's a problem to me. I don't know that he's what a lot of people think he is.
Yeah, I mean, he was so sensational from a statistical standpoint and just from being able to do things with the ball in his hands that very few human beings can do. But you're right. At the same time, he's a difficult guy to play with. I mean, Russell Westbrook has a lot of those skills and more, but he has shown a willingness to play as a team and to play with Kevin Durant and play off Kevin Durant and benefit from each other's talents and the attention that they draw. And that was one of Dwight's frustrations and continues to be in Houston, that, you know, Harden eats up so many possessions and so much of the shot clock that Dwight just ends up just making, you know, endless, pointless round trips up and down the floor and hardly ever sees the ball. Now, you know, Dwight's another story because he was never able to accept in L.A. with the Lakers that he's just there to block shots and rebound and protect the paint. And he wanted more than that. And you're never going to get more than that when you play with Kobe Bryant. And he's finding the same sort of circumstance with James Harden.
Well, I mean, maybe if you actually put the work in and became a functional free throw shooter instead of a liability late in the game, maybe he would get the ball more. Maybe you look in the mirror, Dwight. Maybe that's a start.
I mean, he's not the only one. I mean, DeAndre Jordan's in that same boat. There are other guys. That's a whole other can of worms. I have strong opinions about that hack a Dwight, hack a Shaq rule. I mean, the defense that, well, just go practice and become a better free throw shooter. Yeah, that's fine, but when you get fouled on a legitimate basketball play, I'd buy that. But when people are just chasing you around the floor to foul you for no reason, that's just silliness.
Yeah, BT had a novel solution to that a couple of days ago when the commissioner Adam Silver talked about it. Said it's not going to change this year. He said, "Well, make it 3 shots.
Yeah.
If it's intentional, it's off the ball, he's backcourt, whatever. Make it 3 shots.
Give him something to really think about strategically."
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, the one thing everyone seems to be in agreement, or most people seem to be in agreement now that the rule needs to be changed. The next hurdle, which is an even greater one, is what do you change it to? That's
True.
going to be the real dilemma.
I'm with you. Talking to Kenny Berger, NBA trade deadline 3 Eastern today. So we're moving up toward that. And he's with us here on CBS Sports Radio, Tiki and Tierney Show.
We look at the Sacramento Kings. They're 4.5 games out of the last playoff spot. And if they do find a way to do something and bring talent in, they're facing off against the Golden State Warriors. They'll be swept out of the playoffs. Is there a chance that something happens on the outward way with the Sacramento Kings, either DeMarcus Cousins or more likely Rudy Gay, who has kind of been chirping about finding a new home?
I thought heading into this week and heading into the All-Star break that Rudy Gay had a pretty good chance of being dealt, and just haven't heard of his name come up a whole lot in my conversations and in reading what everyone else is reporting as we approach the deadline here. Haven't heard a whole lot. You hear that the Kings are pushing to make a move for Pau Gasol. I'm not quite sure. Again, pretty much everything the Kings do, I don't quite understand. I mean, They fired Michael Malone last year because the owner wanted to play faster. Then they hired George Karl, and he agreed to play faster, and they became a much worse defensive team as a result. And so now you're a fast team playing at a high pace, and you're going to bring a guy in who, is 34 years old and sort of, is not known for his speed and athleticism. I don't get that one, but I don't think it'll be Cousins.